we have to realize that in the United States, we are like 350 million people, and these drugs are developed here, researched here, but serve the entire humanity. So if we can be on the forefront, um, we could not only have military power or technology power, but the power to make people live better, longer, and stronger.
Welcome to the Favorable Environments podcast, featuring interviews with industry leaders, pioneering researchers, and influential entrepreneurs. This podcast offers listeners a unique perspective into the minds shaping the future of medical technology and healthcare.
This episode features a conversation with Wassim Laroussi, and in our conversation, Wassim shares with the audience his unconventional path into the world of biotech. But what I found really interesting about his story was that he never lost sight of his interest in finance and the public markets. And as a result, today he is growing his YouTube channel called the Biotech Investor, where he shares how he breaks down and evaluates public biotech stocks and companies. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to Wassim Laroussi.
So I know that we all tend to grow up with the same questions as kids, and it is, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? Well, I can tell you I never thought about biotech ever. I grew up wanting to be a soccer player. Of course, I failed, as many people do in sports, because it's very competitive and only the best 1% make it. And around 22 years old, really didn't know what to do. So I did what most practical people do, and is go to Google and type best paid jobs in the US. And I had the list of the top 10 best paid jobs, and I didn't like any of them. One of them was pharmacist. So I was like, well, I always thought about pharmacy because I've always had the interest of understanding how chemistry affects us, what we eat, and how our bodies work. I didn't like medicine, but I liked that part of medicine, which is pharmacy. And from there, I started my first job here in the US at CVS, a pharmacy technician. Very hectic, long hours. Worked there for about 2 years until I realized that I could recognize the drugs just by the bottle from far. So when I got to that point, I was like, okay, I think I've learned enough here. And it got a little boring after that, very repetitive. And while being there, I realized that pharmacists have a very repetitive task. There's no input from them. All they do is just receive phone calls, receive scripts from doctors, which I think that's the hardest part, is understanding how how doctors write the medication.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, I was like, no, this is not for me. Moved then to a pharmacy technician job at a compound pharmacy, which I thought I was going to have some input there. But no, all I was doing was just following a list of ingredients and making those drugs, which I learned a lot, honestly, on how to compound, how these different drugs are just a mixture of two, three, or four. And again, got really bored. There was no input. All I was doing is just following steps. Then I was like, well, this is definitely not for me. I want to do software. Got a job as a software developer. I went to school for that, but ended up working for a pharmacy benefits management. So basically, insurance companies would have these pharmacy benefit managements as the middleman between them and the clients, especially for Medicaid, Medicare. And all I was doing was making sure that the claims that were rejected were on a specific file, and the understand why those were rejected, if it was a bug or not, and if it was a bug, I would go and fix it, and so on. It was definitely interesting. I learned tons, and then I landed at IQVIA without even understanding anything about biotech. I was just at IQVIA. I was working on quality management systems. So basically, this big and small pharmaceutical companies would use their software to do their kappa quality management. So basically, if there's a quality issue in manufacturing, then they have to follow this process depending on their location. If you're in Japan, they have different processes. If you're in the US, different processes. It could be the same drug, but they have different processes to manage quality. Then I started realizing, so at the office we had all the walls had these little portraits of the logos of our clients. So I started seeing, oh, I recognize that picture. That's Novo Nordisk. Oh, I recognize that picture. That's Lilly. So that's where my curiosity started kicking in. Um, and I've always liked finance. I was always interested, but I never wanted to move to New York. So it was always something I just enjoyed doing. And so with time, COVID happened. Suddenly everyone became an expert at clinical trials. And I was like, oh, I think I know a little bit about this. So that's where everything really, all the dots, connected. And I was like, okay, um, I'm liking this. And it's been now 5 years.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Um, 5 years definitely. Sometimes I wrestle. It's like I don't know if that felt too long ago when COVID happened or it was just yesterday, but it was definitely something that yeah, affected so many people's lives. It's kind of crazy that we survived a pandemic really in our lifetime. Um, but no, that's so fascinating. So you really have kind of like in some ways, kind of like an organic background into this kind of biotech and pharmaceutical space, which then kind of blended with your curiosity and interest in finance. Um, so I kind of want to talk more about your YouTube channel and Biotech Investor. And, I've watched some of your videos. And again, I was just very impressed by how thorough your research is. But you also communicate it in such a very easy way to understand. And I guess for our audience, can you kind of share, like, for those that just try to want to understand what biotech investing is, like what are some trends or opportunities in the market that you feel like biotech investors should kind of keep an eye out for?
Yeah. So for beginners, don't look at charts. If you look at any biotech stock chart, it starts with a pop during IPO and then it fades down all the way until something happens. Um, Basically, it's just a startup. A biotech is just a startup, a group of four, five, six, 10 friends, scientists that they acquire an asset or they have a molecule. They try to prove that it works, that can cure some disease, and they raise money. So they go to private investors, and then they go to the market and they IPO, and that's how they get funded. Now, from that point all the way until they get FDA approved, it could be many years. Generally, 7, 8, 10 years. So for during all those years, they don't have any income. They don't have any revenue for new biotechs. So all they do is use that money. They use that money for their own salaries. They use that money for their research, for their clinical trial, to pay the bills, to pay for the office, to pay for everything. That's why you see that chart going all the way down because the company is valued less, basically. And I'm oversimplifying, but this is the main idea. So if you're new, don't look at charts. You have to understand what the company is doing. So I always put this hat on. Um, I always imagine myself as being a billionaire. So I'm like, if I was a billionaire and this market cap is $1 billion, if I had $1 billion in the bank, would I buy this company? All of it. So if I buy the company, there are no more shares on the market. There's no charts. So if I do that, is it worth it? Why is it worth $20 a share? Right? So if you go with that mindset, you will suddenly find yourself asking the right questions. Um, and that trend is happening a little bit now. Um, During COVID, money was cheap. A lot of these companies were funded even without having really good things to do. So there are a lot of zombie companies right now in biotech, but I think it's getting better, and investors should always ask the right questions, which is what is the business doing? How can they sell this whatever they're building, instead of just looking at charts.
Sure, sure. Yeah, and I mean, you know, so if someone is just kind of like just want to learn more about biotech, and yeah, the public IPO companies are there, and they can have the news articles and just more of some data, quantitative data at their hands. Um, like you kind of mentioned this earlier, but I'm curious how you could expand this. So like, why is biotech kind of just different from other tech industries, right? I mean, AI is really hot right now, but you got defense sector, space. What is it about biotech that kind of makes it interesting to you, and how does that different from other industries?
That's a great question. Um, well, it's always cool to invest in the next Instagram or Uber, right? It solves a need that people have. Either it's entertainment or transportation. But I think that what we all have in common is that we all want to have a good life. Uh, we all want to have good health and enjoy this life as long as possible. And the only industry that really tackles that is biotech, where it tries to solve these illnesses that are killing us, basically. Um, and the main difference from the investment perspective is that in general, in consumer tech, Apple could come up with an iOS system that doesn't look good, looks glassy. People might not like it, and it's totally fine. They can live with that for a year, and then change it. Nothing really happens. Um, for startups, they could basically fail multiple times with their product, and then they can just rebound. In biotech, if you have a bad molecule or an asset that is useless, no matter how many times you can try it on different illnesses, it's not going to work. So it's more of a binary event where you're looking at, if it works, then great. If it doesn't, the value is zero. So that's the risk. When they say that biotech is risky, it's not about volatility, but because the company could really go to zero. And we've seen it too many times already. So understanding that and going into the investment with the mindset that, hey, this could go to zero, you would start to ask more questions. Um, I really like Peter Lynch, and one of his, and I'm paraphrasing here, he says that we spend more time researching the next refrigerator or microwave that we want to buy, or Dyson vacuum than the next stock that is supposed to help us get to retirement. So that's where my channel comes in. When I started in biotech, I couldn't really find anything on YouTube. Um, the only ones I could find were just talking about technical analysis, which really didn't add any value to what I was trying to find. So yeah, I think yeah, that's all. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good lead into kind of your approach and overall kind of philosophy with biotech as an industry. But I watched one of your videos on YouTube. I think it's you're one of your most popular ones. I think it has almost 20,000 views on it. And you're talking about Madrigal Pharmaceuticals. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Madrigal Pharmaceuticals. And towards the end of the video, you kind of break it down your approach of how you evaluated that. You looked at the insider trades, the hiring, and then you also noted the FDA breakthrough designation. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit of how you just kind of evaluate a biotech company?
Yeah. So when buying any stock or any business, I try to understand it as much as possible. I don't mean understanding the science because that's harder to understand, but just understand the business. So if someone comes to you and tells you, "Hey, I have a medication that's maybe FDA approved. We've been doing clinical trials and it's looking great, but this medication is only going to be able to sell to 10,000 people," then you have to take that into account, right? But if it's something like Resvidra, I think I can't pronounce drug names,
Yeah.
especially the new ones. They're coming with
Right.
the more sophisticated names. Resdifra, I think, is the name, which is for MASH, fatty liver. All you have to do is just Google how many people suffer from fatty liver in the United States alone, and how many diagnoses happen every year. And you quickly realize, like, hey, if this is approved, it's going to sell to thousands of people, millions of people, and there's no competition. So you quickly realize the potential of the drug. Apart from that, I try to, since this could go to zero, as I said before, I try to put the odds on my side. So is the FDA really going to happen? Are they preparing for commercialization? Because once the FDA approves, then you're like, okay, we have to sell this. Are they hiring for marketing? If they're not hiring for a marketing team, if they're not hiring for salespeople, that tells you that even the company doesn't believe they're going to be approved. So why would you put your money there? So trying to think as a business owner, if I own Madrigal, what would I do next? And that's what I try to do my research and gather that information and present it to the public. I think the channel, I wasn't expecting it to work at all. It was just if you go back to my first video, I was just talking with an old webcam against the wall, just talking about eye events and doing a presentation, and it quickly gained popularity because there was just nobody doing any of it. So yeah, I found a gap and I'm trying to fill it, and now I'm taking it a little more seriously, and let's see what happens.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely spot on. I mean, as far as like online content goes, we kind of spoke briefly about this earlier, but even from my perspective, yeah, biotech, medical devices, pharmaceuticals, the online content is just there's not much stuff out there of value really, because it's either very advertising, very salesy, right? A company's just trying to market their product, or it's just kind of very surface level. But I think the one thing I really appreciate about your content and your channel is that you're kind of using it as like a education, right? Informing those and kind of really, like you said, if you were the owner of that company, what would you do? And some of the ways that you've evaluated it. And I mean, congrats on the early success for your YouTube channel right now. I mean, definitely, I think as you continue to kind of grow that channel and expand your team and help you with some video editing and so forth like that, that might be a pretty cool, I don't know, media empire someday. But yeah, can you kind of share with us a little bit what's kind of your vision for the Biotech Investor and kind of your content that you're contributing online?
Yeah. So Before jumping to that, I just want to say a big thank you to the ex biotech community. Um, it's, I mean, I feel it's becoming like family. From Jonathan Faison, which he has a Seeking Alpha group, which is full of really amazing people, very knowledgeable. To everyone who's hiding, behind um, the X usernames. I don't know you guys, but thank you. They've been. I've learned a lot from the conversations I've had with too many people on X, which is something that people sometimes don't recognize the value there. Is you just learn things from random people. I don't even know them. They just comment something, and it's mind blowing. Sometimes I wish I could, meet them and say, "Hey, thank you for this. I really had no idea." And some of this information is not available in textbooks. When I started, I was trying to find the biotech books. There's one biotech investor book, which is pretty old, and it does just an overview of what biotech is. But the vast majority of the things I've learned, it's been through X and my YouTube channel comments. I've made my mistakes during my videos. My videos are not perfect. My analysis is not perfect. If all of that was perfect, I would be already sitting in a penthouse somewhere. But it's educational. People learn from me. I'm learning from people, from the viewers themselves. Some of them know these companies since inception. So when I'm coming in and talking about them, they point out some of my mistakes. So that's amazing. Um, where next? I'm trying to consolidate my knowledge. I know that we never stop learning. It's something continuous. Um, trying to consolidate my knowledge as much as possible to make even more content and more videos. We have tons of PDUFAs this year. We have tons of good clinical trial outcomes that I wish I could do videos about and discuss and put out there for the public. Unfortunately, I still don't have the time now, but I'm pushing for that, and hopefully I can put better content. Well, keep improving, better content and more content. I think that's what's next.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's I definitely I don't know what it's like to be in your shoes to make YouTube videos, but as I said earlier, the video editing, especially when you're doing it solo, it takes up so much time, right? And I can tell you put a lot of work into your videos because what I notice is like when you're kind of doing your videos and you're doing your commentary, the B-roll and the images just, kind of they're very a creative way to kind of match up with the words. So I know like you're taking a lot of time and attention to detail to those small things. So I think that's really appreciated. And yeah. And, as far as like the biotech industry as a whole, and from your research and your time in this space, where do you think the biotech industry is kind of heading in the future, in the near future?
Um, I think it's. I think we went through a really bad timing, and my YouTube channel started in a really bad time during the biotech sector. So I think we're going to see a lot of improvement. We're going to see. So biotech in general, as a sector, is very interest rate sensitive. Since all of these companies start with funding, a lot of this funding is through financing. And if you're going to fund something that is new at 9% interest rate, it's really hard. Just interest rates would kill you before even getting to commercializing any drug that you might be developing. So by lower rates, we should see these stocks going higher. Every small cap stocks. Also, we should see a lot of mergers and acquisitions. A lot of companies got cheap money in 2020, 2021. Some of them had great success, especially in oncology and obesity. So I expect to see a lot of, well, important mergers and acquisitions in oncology and in obesity. That's what I foresee. Um, let's see if that's gonna work out. Um, there was a lot of scare with RFK and the new FDA team, but it seems like it's working out. So yeah, I'm excited to see that, and also excited to see what AI is going to do with biotech, especially in efficiency, clinical trials. Uh, yeah, we live in interesting times.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like especially with the AI, it's like we're still kind of just like at that edge of it's still kind of like in its infancy. Because yeah, I mean, like the vision of AI kind of mapping out and kind of de-risking a drug before it goes to market. I mean, that is incredibly impactful. I mean, imagine the timelines are shorter. I mean, perhaps capital is shorter too, because now you have more of a clear pathway to market, clinical trials. So I'm also very excited to see how kind of the implications of AI really in the biotech sector as a whole. But yeah, one of my final questions for you is, again, thank you for your time for this conversation. And is there anything that you would like to share with the world right now about yourself or about biotech or, what you had for breakfast this morning? It could be anything. What would you like? What would you like to share with the world right now?
Um, I would like to share that many times in the US, we don't think that these drugs are going to work somewhere else. So the focus when investing, the focus is very US based, and this is something most people do. The We have to realize that in the United States, we are like 350 million people, and these drugs are developed here, researched here, but serve the entire humanity. So if we can be on the forefront, we could not only have military power or technology power, but the power to make people live better, longer, and stronger. I think that soft power is way stronger and resilient than any new missile or satellite that you can use to deter others. As we've seen during COVID, countries that didn't even like each other had to work with each other to, manufacture vaccines, develop a solution to the pandemic, and even, help each other with masks. We've seen that masks being shipped from one country to another with them being adversaries. So I think that unites us, and we should be on the forefront for that soft power.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Favorable Environments podcast, made possible by the USD Discovery District and South Dakota First Capital. To learn more about USD Discovery District, please visit usddiscovery.com. And you'd like to learn more about South Dakota First Capital, please visit southdakotafirst.com. And if you'd like to check out the complete list of guests we've had in the past, you can learn more at favorableenvironments.com. And lastly, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please consider giving us a 5-star review. That will help us out greatly. Thank you.